For a few brief moments, seeing Gina's car may have brought a sense of relief. After all, they had found something. The Saturn was there. It hadn't been stolen. It wasn't wrecked on the side of the road. It wasn't abandoned miles outside of town. It was there, sitting exactly where Gina had parked it the night before. Perhaps she was nearby. Could there possibly be an explanation here? Perhaps this would all make sense in a matter of minutes. But as Mike Johnson and Gina's friend Danny approached the vehicle, that hope quickly began to fade. At first glance, nothing seemed obviously wrong. The windows appeared intact. There was no visible damage, no signs of a collision, no indication that the vehicle had been broken into, and the area around the car appeared undisturbed. There was no blood, no scattered belongings, no obvious evidence of violence. And yet something felt wrong. And then they noticed the trunk. This is part 4, the disappearance of Gina Bos. It wasn't fully closed, and it wasn't standing wide open either, but it was enough to catch their attention. It was enough to make them stop. And as they moved closer and looked inside, they saw something immediately recognizable. There it was, Gina's guitar, Harley, and alongside it, her sheet music. For anyone else, perhaps that discovery would seem insignificant, but not to those who knew Gina, not to the people who understood what that guitar meant to her. Friends and family would later say the same thing time again and again. Gina did not leave Harley behind. She simply didn't, because that guitar wasn't just property. Harley wasn't just an instrument. It was one of her most prized possessions, a constant companion, a source of comfort, an extension of who she was. And this was a woman who sometimes carried Harley into restaurants because she didn't want to leave it unattended. Yet now it sat alone, inside the trunk, partially exposed, and with no sign of Gina anywhere nearby. And almost immediately, both Mike and Danny knew something was terribly wrong. There is a moment in many missing person cases when concern turns into certainty, a moment when loved ones stop looking for innocent explanations and begin fearing the worst. For Gina's family and friends, this was that moment, because none of what they were seeing made any sense. If Gina had decided to leave voluntarily, why leave her guitar? If she had planned to go somewhere, why leave her vehicle? If she had encountered car trouble, why was the vehicle still parked exactly where she had left it? And perhaps most importantly, where was Gina? The questions came quickly. The answers never did. And another troubling detail soon emerged. Gina's purse was nowhere to be found. And investigators would later confirm that her purse was not recovered from the vehicle, nor was it found in the immediate area. And this would generate endless speculation over the years. Did she leave carrying it? Did someone take it? Did it contain evidence of what happened? Nobody knows. We can only speculate. And more than 25 years later, still nobody knows. By this point, the fear among Gina's loved ones had become overwhelming. This wasn't someone running late. This wasn't someone sleeping at a friend's house. This certainly wasn't a misunderstanding. Something had happened. At approximately 6:30 that morning, calls were made seeking help. And just minutes later, around 6:38 a.m., law enforcement was contacted. It's good to note here just how unusual that timing is. Many adult missing person cases are not reported for hours, sometimes days. Loved ones often hesitate. They hope for an innocent explanation. They tell themselves everything will be fine. That wasn't the case here. The people who knew Gina best recognized almost immediately that her disappearance was completely out of character. They knew something was wrong. and they acted accordingly. This urgency with which her family responded would become one of the most strongest indicators that this was not a voluntary disappearance. Everyone who knew Gina seemed to arrive at the same conclusion. She would never, ever willingly leave her children behind. As word spread, concern quickly rippled through Gina's family. Calls were made, relatives gathered, and friends joined the effort. The questions multiplied. Nobody had seen her. Nobody had heard from her. And nobody could explain what happened after she left Duggan's pub. Law enforcement responded and began evaluating the scene. And investigators faced a difficult reality. There was a vehicle, but there was no victim. No witness had observed a crime. No one had reported an abduction. No one had reported a struggle. Yet experienced investigators understood something important. People do not simply vanish, not without leaving something behind. And Gina had left behind nearly everything that mattered to her: her children, her job, her future home, her plans, her guitar, her life. As the investigation intensified, searches were launched throughout the area. Officers examined locations surrounding the pub. Volunteers joined efforts to locate any trace of Gina. Search teams walked fields, checked vacant areas, and examined locations where evidence might have been discarded. Cadaver dogs were also brought in. Yet despite all these efforts, nothing was found. No clothing, no purse, no weapon, no physical evidence whatsoever pointing investigators toward a specific location. Nothing. It is difficult to appreciate how frustrating that can be for detectives. Every investigation depends on evidence. Evidence provides direction. Evidence creates leads. Evidence tells a story. But in Gina's case, the evidence seemed to stop at the edge of a parking space. It's almost as if she vanished into thin air. As investigators began reconstructing the timeline, they focused heavily on a very small window of time. That period between Gina leaving the pub and the discovery of her vehicle. That period of time would become the center of the mystery. Somewhere in that time frame, something happened. Something significant enough to remove a 40-year-old woman from the face of the earth. Yet no one could say exactly what. And perhaps even more troubling, no one could say where. Did she reach her car? Did she open the trunk herself? Did Gina place Harley inside? Was she approached by someone she knew, someone she trusted, or someone she didn't? The truth remained hidden, buried somewhere inside those final moments. And with each passing hour, the possibility of finding Gina alive grew smaller. Investigators now faced a sobering possibility. This was no longer a missing person investigation. This might be a criminal investigation. The challenge, though, was proving it. Because despite growing suspicions, there was still one major problem. There was virtually no evidence, no forensic trail, no eyewitness account of a crime, no clear suspect. Just a woman, Gina, who walked out of a bar, and a guitar, Harley, sitting in a partially opened trunk, and a mystery that was only just beginning. Stay tuned for part 5.